For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Kristen and my brand is She Thrives Now. And my mission is to help single moms thrive and to heal from brokenness. I am an author, I am a speaker, I am an educator by trade, and I just love to use my platforms to speak about topics that I am passionate about that are going to help other women succeed in all areas of their life. Love, business, parenting, you name it. I want to talk about co-parenting and 5 ways. There has been so many times where I've told you 5 and it's like 4. So yes, 5 things to share about how you can be more successful in your co-parenting relationship, especially for those of you who have trouble communicating with your ex. This topic is very, very hard for me to talk about because I have been dealing with co-parenting drama for the last 13 years. And it's not something that I'm proud about, but I really do want to help another mom who may be dealing with the same thing. Just to give you a little bit of background, my son's father and I, we were actually dating. We dated for about 4 years prior to me even getting pregnant. So we actually had a pretty good exclusive relationship. Well, in that 4 years, of course, there were things that happened. There were breakups, there were makeups, there were things that kind of set us back. And then life happens, we get pregnant, I have a son. I try to do the whole family thing. Let's live together, let's try this thing out, let's see how this goes. And girlfriend, no. Did not work out as planned, so things just did not go well. Well, here we go. My son is 9 months at this time when I realized that it's just not a good fit for me living with this man and trying to continue this relationship just because I have a kid. So my whole mindset was like, well, you're pregnant, you have a baby now, why not get married? I practically begged this man to marry me. I practically was on my knees begging him. I wrote a whole book about all of my drama that came after this entire breakup from this man. In my book, my new book, You Are Not a Mess, Reclaiming Your Self-Worth in the Midst of Brokenness, girl, I be spilling the juice about how I got over a lot of my own drama and brokenness and was able to step in line with my purpose. I'll drop the link in the bio just in case you're interested in checking it out. I realized that even though the relationship ended, there was still some aftermath. You know, I was very bitter because he had moved on very quickly after our relationship ended, and it was very difficult for me to forgive. It was difficult for me to let go. It was difficult for me to release the pain, and so I held on and I harbored pain and I used a lot against him. So I would try to do manipulative things like keep my son away from him or make this big drama scene. I would follow him. I would just do all this stuff just to aggravate, because I felt like, well, you were the one who aggravated me, so now I'm going to aggravate you. It was very childish, you know. I was in a really, really childish state of mind, you know, really trying to revenge because I was hurt. In the meantime, this man had moved on with his life, you know. Regardless of whether or not he forgave me or not, he had moved on, and I hadn't understood how to do that for myself. As the years went on and my son, you know, got older and, you know, we get to the point where we need to now get into, you know, visitation. That was another thing. Visitation. This is going to be a 2-part video because I just realized as I'm talking, there's so much more that I need to speak on in terms of co-parenting and the history of my situation and how it could benefit you. But we got into visitations, and then it got into really messy child support. Then it got into court and just a lot of just stuff, you know, and a lot of it probably had to do with boundaries being crossed and not communicating effectively, not respecting one another, and not understanding each other's place in our lives. That we are no longer in this relationship, that we have to respect each other's position now, and for the benefit of our child and not ourselves. So that took a lot of growing on my part. Now I'm fast forwarding a little bit just because I don't want this to be a very lengthy video and I want to get to the point. And so fast forward 13 years later, believe me, there has been so much going on within those 13 years. I mean, you get into arguments on the phone, name calling, disrespect, hanging up the phone, you know, like I said, going through the court system, and just, you know, just having to deal with a lot of the stress and the toxicity of communicating with your child's father. You don't have to deal with that. You don't have to deal with it or take on that energy if you do not want to. There is a way that you can go about dealing with the drama that you feel is coming on. I want you to identify, why do you think this is happening? Where do you think you can improve? Do you think you can improve in your communication? Do you think you can improve in the way that you show up in the co-parenting relationship? Do you think that maybe there's some things that you're doing that are aggravating the situation? So be very honest with yourself. You cannot always place the blame on other people. Sometimes we do have to take responsibility for our own actions. It sucks, but it's true. So I had to identify and be really, really clear with myself. Like, girl, you need to just stop. So once I was able to kind of get through some of those battles, I was able to see, well, as I'm moving forward, I have to also be aware that this is my son's father at the end of the day, and that is, he's a very huge part of his life, and I have to acknowledge that. And you know, also be open-minded and to listen and to learn from the other person, as opposed to beating them down, as opposed to rejecting them, as opposed to thinking that they're this big bad person. Even if they think that about you, you always have to think positive about the situation. I want to share 5 things with you that I did to help me successfully be able to cope with the toxicity of dealing with your child's father, how to successfully communicate, and how to get through some of those tough moments, especially when big decisions are coming up. So this conversation is really motivated by the fact that my son just went back to Chicago to stay with his father for the summer. Well, Dad really wants him to stay in Chicago, and that's another video. And so this whole conversation came up around me, you know, reneging on the whole aspect of him staying with him and me wanting him to stay for another year. Well, with the whole quarantine happening, you know, he missed half of the semester with his friends. He wanted to close out and spend his 8th grade year with his, you know, graduate with his middle school class, which I think is valid. But Dad had a good point. He said, hey, you know, you did promise for him to come out here. It is that time. You know, my son is 13 now, and it's like, okay, he's becoming a man. He needs to be around his father. He needs to learn some things from his father. Besides, for me, I feel like some parts of my motherhood is expired in some aspects. I don't know if you feel me on that, but sometimes I feel like, okay, so, you know, as moms, we're very nurturing. And I feel like, okay, so up until this point, I have been a very good nurturer to him. But at this point, is that what he really needs? He needs more to help him through this transitions that he's going through, especially in light of everything that's happening in our world with just the racial injustice, just how Black men are perceived in our nation. And these are conversations that I have with him, but I always say that it's best coming from somebody who can fully relate to those experiences, and his father can fully relate to those experiences. So that whole conversation came up because it just blew up. You know, we had this big blow up argument. It was cussing, you know, a lot of words being thrown out. There was hanging up, there was threats. And I'm not excusing his behavior. Girl, please. I'm not excusing it at all. I'm not excusing my behavior. I'm not excusing anything. But I'm saying there's a better way to handle it. So if you are dealing with stress and arguments and disrespect and boundaries being crossed, listen up. So my number 1 thing is come up with a communication plan that works for both of you. So what I mean by communication plan, so how often are you talking? Are you talking on one particular day of the week? So every Monday you get together and you talk about, you know, what's happening in your child's life. Maybe you're not that organized. Maybe you're not that consistent, whatever. The other way I mean by communication plan is figuring out the best mode of communication. Are you a texter? Is that better for you guys? Is email better? Is phone conversation better? Is in person better? Whatever works for you, stick with it. For me, the phone wasn't really working well at some points, especially with those heated conversations. And, you know, some messages were not being acknowledged. So putting things in writing for me worked better. And it was also allowing me to keep a paper trail and more accountability for the words that I would say and more accountability for things that he would say. Number 2, keep it strictly business. Okay? And when I say strictly business, girlfriend. Do not cross over lines about, well, you know, you used to do this, and you know, back in the day, this and that, or you know, I've known you for so many years. No, we are not going there. You're gonna keep it strictly business. What is the issue at hand? What are you talking about? How is it, you know, related to your child? That's it. Don't even try to entertain nothing from your past, or how he hurt you, or how you're pissed, or what he said 3 weeks ago. You know, how he used to be. Just let it go, girlfriend, because you're gonna only make yourself more aggravated. Number 3, make sure to set clear boundaries. And I'm so serious about this. You have boundaries. And if you don't have boundaries, you need to get you some boundaries. So what do I mean by boundaries? So not letting people talk over you, not letting people, you know, say anything that they want, not letting people call you any time of the day, especially when it comes to stuff, you know, related to your child's father, especially if you guys cannot have a good level of respect for one another. If you have a history of disrespect, make sure you're keeping those boundaries and stick firm with those boundaries. Being able to acknowledge what you will and will not accept, and what you will or will not tolerate, is extremely important. Number 4, do not take anything personal. A lot of times people have a lot of frustrations and it has nothing to do with you. So he may be dealing with something in his personal life. He may be dealing with something with work. He may be dealing with something in his health. You are not his woman anymore. Don't try to figure it out, and do not take that shit personal, okay? I'm just telling you, girlfriend. I've taken shit personal and I'm like, oh my gosh, he doesn't like me. He thinks I'm the most evil person in the world. He thinks I'm the enemy. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. Who cares what he thinks? Don't take it personal. That is none of your business. You are here to take care of the business of your child. You two were not able to come to certain terms and connect on a relational level. So don't try to connect on that level now. Right now, the connection is co-parenting, and that's it. Number 5, never use your child as a weapon. Definitely guilty of this. Do not use your child as a weapon of defense. Well, I'm going to keep him from you, or you can't see him, or you're not going to be able to talk to him, or if you don't do this, I'm going to do that, to, you know, whatever. But your child does not deserve to be in the middle of your issues. Your child does not deserve to be in the middle of your drama, or your confusion, or your hurt, or your pain, or your bitterness. Your child does not deserve that. Matter of fact, don't talk about your child's father in their face. That's like a weapon. Don't do that. Do not use your child against your ex, and don't use your ex against your child. It is not for that purpose. You have to figure out what's the issue with here, to where you feel that that's okay and acceptable. So I really charge you to really be mindful of that, and how you're communicating about your ex to your child, and how you're communicating to your child about your ex. I think I said that right. So I really do hope that you got something from this video. Remember those 5 things to keep in mind. I will copy them below in the bio. Remember, you can take a look at my new book, You Are Not a Mess, Reclaiming Your Self-Worth in the Midst of Brokenness. In this book, I share some very personal stories and testimonies of how I overcame brokenness from being in a lot of dysfunctional relationships, and how I was able to come out of that, from finding myself, from finding out who I was, and realizing my self-worth, so that I can start thriving in other areas of my life. So go ahead and grab your copy right now. I have a few copies left, link in the bio. I have already written out a content list, so I will be back on real soon recording these videos. I'm having so much fun doing this, and I really look forward to reconnecting with you again. If you have not done so, please subscribe, join the community. Again, this is all for single moms, and I hope to see you soon in the comments so we can connect, girlfriend. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.